Did you know that drug and alcohol rehab programs have at best like a 27% success rate? That's not very good. Welcome to the Women Rock in Midlife podcast, soulful wellness to elevate your second act. You deserve to deeply love every moment of your life, living your best life with pure joy, optimal health and abundance, with the energy, time, and inner peace to savor experiences with your loved ones and with yourself. Hi, I'm Jen Kunkel. Join me on this soulful journey to complete wellness in midlife and beyond. Food addiction is also an addiction. So what do we do about it if the rehab type programs we use don't have a very good success rate? Today we are talking about addiction. Not so much addiction to drugs or alcohol, but to things like sugar and food. Those can be addictions too. And if you have a challenge being addicted to food, sugar, or certain kinds of food that are unhealthy, it makes it harder for you to drop weight. It makes it more likely you're going to have low energy and you might have health problems. You're definitely not going to be living your best life, which is what we want, right? You want to live your best life. You want to have lots of energy. You want to be healthy. So we have to figure out how to bust these addictions to the unhealthy foods. Have you ever noticed that when you eat sugary foods or even packaged foods, they taste so good and you just want more and more and more? That's an addiction thing that's going on, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. How did I come up with this idea for this topic today? Well, I was actually watching the movie Beautiful Boy, which is based on a true story. And at one point, the dad is talking to someone at a drug rehab center. The son is a teenager and he gets into drugs. He gets addicted. He's causing all kinds of problems. So the dad finally wants to take him to a rehab center. So he's asking the lady that's doing the intake or that he's getting information from, what's your success rate? Which is an amazing question. What is your success rate for this? And she gives what I find to be a very weird answer. And I don't know if this is what really happens in real life or not, or if it's just the movies. And I don't know if they did it on purpose or if it was just a weird answer, but I found it very strange. She gave a range. And I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. You have a success rate. How many people came in? How many people are still off drugs? That's it's one number. It's a success rate. I mean, it might depend on how many years you're looking at, but you don't have a different range of percentages. I don't remember what she said, but some kind of range, like, between 25 and 50% or something like that. I have no idea what the numbers were that she said, but at some point, someone told him, like later in the movie, someone told him that those programs have a single-digit success rate. Well, that is not success. So if that's really the case, there definitely needs to be a new approach. And what I found when I did research was that it's somewhere in the neighborhood for alcohol and drugs. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of between 17 and 21%. So maybe for just the drugs or meth, which is what they were talking about there, it's a single digit success rate. Either way, not success. Need a new approach. I mean, what other medical treatment gets the okay with a single digit success rate? Think about it. Would you have a surgery that only had a single digit success rate? That means 9% or lower. 91% chance of failure at best. No, thank you. doesn't make any sense at all. And it just makes me wonder, do they not even want to solve this problem? Because rather than looking for other treatment approaches, they're just like, yeah, this is the approach we have. And it has an awful success rate. Yeah, that's not the right approach then. You're doing something wrong, which means that addiction is very challenging. And I don't really think it matters what you're addicted to. I don't think it matters if it's alcohol or drugs or sugar or food or coffee or shopping or sex or whatever. I don't think it matters. Addiction is addiction. And yes, there is a physiological aspect of it, but there is also the psychological aspect of it. So let's look at what happens, what most people take as an approach if they have an issue with sugar or food in general. Usually the approach is something like cold turkey. Let's just don't do it. Like, oh, you're eating too much food, you're eating too much sugar, stop it. Does that work? I don't think so. So for example, I did the program 75 Hard, which was 75 days with certain rules. One of the rules was no alcohol. And then you also pick a diet. Well, one of the things on my diet was absolutely no sugar. Alcohol, I'm good. I don't need very much of it. If I have like 3 drinks the next day, I feel like I was poisoned. So it's okay. I don't need any help with that one. I'm good. Sugar, on the other hand, I had a huge rebound. I feel like I was so hardcore about no sugar that when I got off of 75 Hard, I went completely off the wagon. It was after the holidays. I had some cheesecake that my brother made, and then some cheesecake that someone else made. I need to compare them. Some candies that I really like. And then I feel like I just OD'd on sugar, right? And if I really pay attention, if I eat too much sugar, I also feel like I'm poisoned. I mean, sugar is kind of like crack in a way, in my opinion. My great nephew, oh my gosh, he was probably only maybe 3 or 4, and he was probably only 3 because I haven't been to Starbucks in ages. So I was going to Starbucks and I asked for a children's vanilla bean, whatever, something or another, with no coffee in it, of course. Still tons of sugar in it. Well, they gave me a tall. And I'm like, I was in the drive-thru. I'm like, do you see this child? Like, that seems like a lot. But of course, I'm thinking, oh, I need to be like the good, fun, cool aunt that just lets him have whatever, right? Yeah, I never did that again because I felt so bad. Oh yeah, he sucked that whole thing down and he loved the crap out of it. And then I felt like horrible because you could see him reacting to the sugar. And I was like looking up, what do you do when a kid has too much sugar? So I was giving him natural peanut butter to kind of like balance it out and stabilize his sugar levels because he just looked like he was on baby crack. And I was like, oh my gosh, I literally felt horrible for that. And he was okay. He was fine. And the peanut butter kind of helped mellow everything out. And then, he took a nap and slept it off. So sugar is really like a drug. I actually saw some studies that showed that this episode wasn't really supposed to be about sugar, but I was thinking of it, so I'll mention it. The study that showed rats were given cocaine and sugar, and they actually preferred the sugar. Like, they were more addicted to the sugar than the cocaine. Something like that. Like I said, I just thought of it. I didn't have any notes on that for this episode, but I recall that study, something like that. Interesting, right? So addiction to anything definitely has the physiological component, right? Your body chemistry reacts, and then it takes more and more to get the same feeling. I don't think it matters if it's drugs or alcohol or food or sugar or caffeine or sex or working out or anything. I mean, I used to feel like I was addicted to working out. Like I worked out twice a day most days, and if I worked out only like 5 days, that's what I said. I was like, oh, I only worked out 5 days this week. Oh my gosh. I think you can be addicted to a lot of different things. That one worked out in my favor, though, for the most part. And then you have to look at, how do you break that biological addiction, the biological part. There are foods that actually have ingredients in them that create that effect. They cause you to want more and more and more. So you have to break that biological effect. First, though, and I think really most importantly, the addiction to anything has a psychological component, and you have to figure out how to break that. So the first time you do something or you have something, you first have to choose to have it. And I think the reason people do that a lot of times is because it's seen as normal. It's conditioning. It comes down to the conditioning that we have. So you have that first step where you first try it. Or even, donuts. Like as a kid, when this is something that's always blown me away. When there's a baby, right? The mom is always like, oh, I have to have this certain organic formula or breastfeed the organic baby food or this and that. It's like really particular, but oh, no, we can't have any of that yet, blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you know, they're a toddler eating like fast food chicken nuggets. And I'm like, wow, you went from, I've got to be so careful with what I put in my child's body, to chicken nuggets and french fries and Cheetos are perfectly fine. Well, that's because society sees it as normal. So the parent sees that as normal. Yet you're not supporting your child in making healthy choices in the future when you do that. So that's that first step you're in. But then you have the psychological component that keeps you going. You have the physiological ones that we already talked about. And then the psychological part is, maybe it helps you alleviate anxiety. It helps you feel like you're escaping from reality. It's comforting. We literally have the term comfort food, right? There's all of this that we have to think about. Now, as far as breaking the psychological aspect of it, which I believe is key, because in order to break the biological aspect of it, you have to stop consuming it. And to get yourself to stop making that choice is the psychological part. So I believe the key is addressing like the underlying shadow or baggage that's at the core of the addiction. What is it that you're attempting to escape from? And when you face that psychological thing that you're attempting to escape from, or multiple things, there's probably layers and layers like an onion, then that's going to help you start to shift, right? So that's where something like shadow work comes in, personal development, meditating, introspection, reflection, and really getting to know yourself and learning about yourself and letting yourself be you without the judgment, without the guilt, without shame, and becoming comfortable with these parts of yourself that you're not comfortable with and that maybe you're hiding from through this addiction to different foods that's helping to comfort you in some way, the emotional dependence on those foods. We are so used to these things being a normal part of life that we don't even think about questioning it. Think about prohibition, right? It's hard to believe that that was a thing, and we all think, well, it didn't work anyway. People drink, that's normal. Even drinking and driving, people do that and it's normal. I mean, some people do it on a regular basis and think nothing of it. I used to. That's embarrassing and sad to admit, and I was very fortunate, but I've done it too. Now I think there's really no excuse for that. There's so many options. There's so many ways to avoid drinking and driving. First of all, I mean, at some point I was like, if I'm driving, I will not have even one drink. That's it. That's my deal. And I did that for a long time, even though in the past, when I was younger and dumb, I did. So it's just not worth a life or an injury to others, no matter how common you think it is in your circles. I feel the same exact way about texting. There is no text that is more important than a life. And if I see someone texting while they're driving, I will say something really crazy. Like, I will say something, it's not crazy, it's true. I'm like, well, what if you kill a baby? Is that text worth it? No. I mean, most people are thinking, oh, what if I crash? Oh, well. But what if you crash into a family and you kill a child? Or you kill a parent? Or whatever. I do have someone in my life that I say that to because that gets his attention. Just like what we consider to be food. It's based on our social norms and what's commonplace, and it's not that we're thinking enough about what we put in our bodies. Most people are not thinking enough about what they're putting into their bodies. Yet it is literally the most important factor in our health. It's the fuel for the vehicle that gets us through life. I mean, our bodies are important, right? If your body is not in good condition, if it's not healthy, you are going to feel crappy. You're not going to have energy. You're not going to want to do things. Maybe you get headaches. Maybe you have a health problem. Maybe you get a heart problem or cancer or whatever. Just arthritis, inflammation, things that make it hard for you to move around. And what you put in your body affects all of that, but we act like it doesn't. We act like it doesn't matter. We act like we don't really care about the things we put in our body. Like, oh, well, they're selling it in the grocery store. It must be okay. That is not the case. I hate to tell you that. I am the bearer of bad news here, but that is not the case. Just because you buy it in the grocery store does not mean that you can eat it and be healthy. A lot of the ingredients that they're passing off as food are damn close to plastic. There are pesticides that are used in farming practices on a regular basis. Even the fertilizers, it's all tainting the wholeness and healthiness of our food. You are brainwashed and you don't even realize it. So wake up. Here are 3 practical steps that you can take right now to start to recognize addiction, to start to recognize where you're not paying attention, and to break the addiction. First of all, start reading the food labels and research ingredients. Here's a hint. Real food does not actually have unrecognizable ingredients. Look for addictive ingredients like high fructose corn syrup, sugars, MSG, flavorings, carrageenan. These things actually trigger stuff in your brain. It doesn't really make the food taste better. It makes your brain think the food tastes better. Okay, so second thing, document every single thing you put into your mouth. Use a tool like MyFitnessPal to make it easy. And then look at like the sugars that you're eating. Look at the ingredients that you're consuming and kind of pay attention to how you feel based on what you're eating. You know, you can go back and look at your food diary and maybe make some notes on how you're feeling each day also. Number 3, pay attention to when and how much you are eating and if you are actually hungry. So many of us just eat and eat and eat because something tastes good or our brain thinks it tastes good, so we eat more of it. Don't listen to that. Like, really step back, get conscious, pay attention to whether or not you're actually hungry, and then eat only until you're satisfied, not overly full. And sometimes it takes a little bit for that to register to your brain, right? Especially when you're used to overeating. All right, and then a couple other things. Design your environments to support you in your health goals, in being healthier, and cultivating this healthier lifestyle. Look at your social environment. So one of my big things is designing your environments. This is one of my core training components that I teach, and it's designing supportive environments. Your physical environment, your mental environment, your social environment, your emotional environment, and discovery environments. I feel like I missed one, but whatever. This is so all I'm talking about right now. So your physical environment, for one thing. If you can have control over the food that's in your space that you live, then start tweaking that. Start bringing in healthier foods and getting rid of the unhealthier foods. Start bringing in more whole foods and getting rid of the processed packaged foods, like ultra processed foods. Your social environment, like who are you hanging out with and what are they doing? Is it supporting you? How can you modify it if it's needed? Your mental environment, the kind of things that you're consuming in your brain. Like, are you just sitting around watching 6 hours a night of mindless TV, or are you watching something interesting and productive and educational, informative? Are you reading? You can start changing all of these things, and that supports you in becoming healthier. And then connecting with people who are in alignment with your goals, right? And then, like I mentioned earlier, the shadow work to address the shadow aspects or past baggage that's at the core of your addictive or unhealthy habits. Working through these and resolving these and becoming comfortable with the parts of you that you haven't been comfortable with creates massive change in your identity. You can choose the identity of a healthy woman with loads of energy, living her best life. And don't be afraid, right? I think some people are afraid to look at their shadows, to look at their dark side. So first of all, there's a good book that you can check out, and that is called Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford, if you want to understand a little bit more about shadow work. It's actually really any kind of personal development. That's just specifically calling it shadow work. And you can download the episode companion worksheet to recognize and break addictions. That link will be in the show notes as well. So to learn more about shadow work and how I can support you in doing it for yourself, looking at those inner pieces of yourself that you would like to resolve and complete and feel good about instead of feeling like you need to avoid, go ahead and schedule a call with me. I'll have a link for that also in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to hit me up on socials. I like to hear from you. Those links are in the show notes. And let's rock this midlife thing together.